I feel like it was.
But that is it for the roadmap roundup, and really it was more just the shiny tracker reports. So if you're still with us, yeah, we have 17, 18 people hanging out. So everybody, thank you for joining us. Thank you for hanging out. And at this point, we are going to transition to the second part of the podcast, where Nazeris and I are going to go through the letter for the chairman and just talk about what our old buddy Chris Roberts has to say. The good thing is this one isn't as meaty as the one earlier in the year, but it does have some really good information and some good updates and things where I was like, oh wow, I didn't realize that. That's cool. So yeah, it's a juicy letter, but thankfully it's like a medium versus a extra large. The 7-Eleven giant cup of soda. I'll have a liter of cola. Um, let's see. So what?
Well, there was art done for an ArcLight version, but it's a tractor beam ArcLight laser pistol attachment for the Astro Arena thing that never happened. Astro Ball, was it Ball? Apparently, 7 years ago. All right. Yes. Letter from the chairman. All right.
Gin and tonic. I'm not aware of any new drama from this letter. If there is, I may just not be plugged in enough, the last week or two since it came out to.
I don't
to
know
notice.
of any either, but I tend to.
The only thing I can think of is like the people saying, "Oh, well, CR is saying, Q4 for server meshing and Pyro, which means Pyro 2024." People seem to forget that
assumptions, like
that Q4 starts in October. What else is in October, folks?
I know, right? Server meshing.
What did they just announce?
Yeah, I know, right?
What did Sandy Roberts just talk to us about for October?
It's also referenced in this letter.
Yeah. It's like, if you can't put two and two together, what they're working on, and if you don't think that they haven't adjusted their expectations from the previous
I think I've
letter.
said this for the past 4 episodes of this, and on the last my brain. Captain's Table is Chris likes the show. If he can show up and be on stage at CitizenCon said, "There's 4-0, enjoy," like he did for this last big patch that we got. Like, that's what he's going to do.
Whoops.
It's what he does. So they absolutely love showing up to CitizenCon saying, "Hey, we just dropped a new patch," which absolutely screws over everyone who goes to CitizenCon, but is the giant amazing thing for everyone who doesn't. So, that's why a lot of people didn't go. A lot of community content creators didn't go to last in-person CitizenCon because they knew they were doing a lot of stuff they're releasing a giant patch at CitizenCon, so they need to be home to do all their content. So, they really want to get 4-0 out for CitizenCon. It's if you don't know that, you have not been paying attention the last 10 plus. Where are we at now? Yeah, 10 plus years. Because October would have been 10 years.
And on that, we'll get back to that. We'll get to that when we get to that part in the letter, because there was a post relevant to that I just opened up. You can see it in the tab here, and I'll share that with you guys. So Nazeris, why don't we just we'll alternate paragraphs, that way we don't get dehydrated. Does that sound good?
I think I finished a lot of words. Yes, that sounds good.
Since you did the roadmap roundup, I will start with the first paragraph. Letter from the chairman, 12/30/2022 at 12:57 a.m. Hello, everyone. As we dun dun dun. As we close out 2022 and head into 2023, should I talk with my hands so you guys can makes it more believable? I wanted to take the time to thank everyone for being such an amazing, enthusiastic, and supportive community. The not-so-secret sauce of Cloud Imperium's ability to have the time and resources to build a universe of the detail, scale, and scope of Star Citizen is the community's... Okay. If you haven't read this yet, bear with me, but I could not keep a straight face reading this sentence, and I had to read it multiple times in order to be like, wait a minute, did he really just write it that way? Is this an English... a Brit thing that I don't understand?
No, I looked it up, and there's the only thing that showed up in the entire search result.
Okay.
It's not. It's what it sounds like.
Okay, so the not-so-secret sauce of Cloud Imperium's ability to have the time and resources to build a universe of the detail, scale, and scope of Star Citizen is the community's full-throated embrace of the ultimate goal of a fully connected and simulated science fiction universe that allows players to engage in first-person gameplay and adventures almost without boundaries. Full-throated embrace. Okay, Gin and Tonic, why is that not the drama?
And has Kotaku made a story yet?
Like, how are people not latching on to the fact that CR
I thought that was gonna be just
that we are giving
biggest thing.
A full-throated embrace.
I love this game, but I'm sorry I missed that. Did you?
Gin and Tonic, CR just said that we give a full-throated embrace of the ultimate goal of Star Citizen. Yeah. So I'm sorry. There's no other way that I could take that. I know it's not just my marine brain, going into the gutter. Yeah, but yeah, totally outrageous. It's like, God, did no one proofread this? And if they did proofread it, how innocent are they? Oh man, I'm sorry. Okay,
or was it one of the sentences Chris said? No, that's staying.
Yeah,
it's. I thought of 3 different words you could have used.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You could have just said full embrace, but full-throated. Did he type this on his phone and it auto-corrected or something?
If that was true, it would have been fixed by now.
Well, and so this is how I can tell that all the trolls and the naysayers and such don't actually read these things. They just get the Cliff Notes versions from their favorite content creator who doesn't, who just gives you the abbreviated version, because otherwise this quote would just get blown absolutely out of, I mean, we're mocking it. If we're mocking it, how is everybody else not absolutely losing their shit about it? How is this not the drama? But yeah, I digress. I have no idea what you're talking about. Yes, yeah, playing 4.0 sounds like it'll be quite the experience. Yeah, I'm getting a sore throat thinking about it. Anyway, there's no other way Star Citizen could be built except for the community-driven funding model. The investment both in time and money is just too expensive for a normal game publisher, especially a public one beholden to quarterly earnings reports and shareholders. Next paragraph, Nazeris, please. Nazeris?
He didn't... Okay, even knew if I didn't pick it up. Okay, I just want to make sure.
Attention to detail,
just,
folks. That's what we do.
Over it. He even has the section up on the screen as he's summarizing it. Nothing. Oh, okay.
It's because he's being paid by CAG. That's how you guys know that Nazeris and I are authentic.
This wasn't official post by CAG. Everyone who touches this thing was paid. No, that's not how anything works. Turbulent was paid to post it. Like, the community team was paid to proofread it. Okay. All right. The little paragraph above the picture, right? Right? That's where we are?
This one, second one.
All right. A great example of our ability to take the long-term view and invest in research and development that most projects don't have the time or ambition for is persistent energy streaming, or PES, which creates true lasting persistence, lost my place, for the Star Citizen universe. If you leave some equipment in a remote cave, shoot down a bounty over Daymar, manage to feud off some pirates around Yila, the result of your actions will persist. Items, debris, ships, and even dead bodies all will stay where they were left and still be there even if you log off and return a few weeks later. Assuming other players haven't taken or cleaned up the result of your adventures. Dead bodies, yes. I mean that's just telling you what persistent energy streaming does. Like it's like actually there was I think it was posted actually by the Star Citizen Shorts channel, which just pulls like clips from everyone and posts them on YouTube. I don't know if that's like allowed, but I watch it anyway because they pull best clips from everyone. So I forget who. I think it was Ronnie who did it. Can't see that. I think I get that wrong, but anyway, somebody was hunting an 890 and then died on the surface of Daymar, and then Zero State showed up later in the day and found the scene that had been set, the dead 890, the abandoned reclaimer, and just other vehicle bits all around. Just like he stumbled on a story that he didn't know existed, that didn't exist at the beginning of the day.
That's so awesome.
Like the magic of PES right there. It was pretty amazing. So, and also, this is the only game that I know of that has real litter in it. If you've been to ArtCorp in 318, you know what I mean. It's real litter, guys.
Yeah. And I don't know of any other game that, I mean, there's a lot of games that have limited persistence. No one is even attempting persistence on this scale. Not even close. Here we are. It's in the PU. PU is buggy as shit right now, but it's in there and it's working.
Like, you can say that no other game has the technology, but some games have some of the technology. You can say no other games that are as big as, but No Man's Sky always beats you on every front when you talk about scale.
Yeah.
But no one has the detail at the scale. Nobody's even trying. Nobody's even thought about trying, especially if there's a publisher.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure there's been, like, let's go for the furthest person that's probably even Derek Smart.
Oh,
he has probably thought up this scale. But the ability to actually put that into action stemmed from Chris Roberts being who he is. Where it is now has transcended that beginning. However, we are here at this scale, at this detail. No Man's Sky only supports, 32 people per... I didn't even know I supported that many. I thought it was only, like, parties. Like, 4 or 5 people, 8 people parties. I had no idea, like, 32 people could actually multiplayer together.
Yeah. Let's see. So I'll read these next two and that one little sentence right there, and then you'll pick up at the community's contribution part. To do this for a universe as big and detailed as Star Citizen, to have this apply to everything, not just player-owned items, for a MMO with millions of players is a major technical accomplishment. I am not aware of any other large-scale MMO that has tried to deliver this level of persistence, because there isn't one. That's the thing. And people do not appreciate the technical marvel that has occurred. And yeah, it took a long time, but that's what research and development is, folks.
Yeah. And I went through this in a video or something. Something I posted a couple days ago. And someone responded, the only thing that comes close, and I don't have their exact words, but basically the only game that he could think of is Death Stranding. And that's not multiplayer, but it does have player-built persistence. So if you build a bridge, it persists on everyone else's server. Well, your whatever party regional, it has weird connections. But basically, your building persists for other people to find and to use. So that's like the closest thing.
Yeah. PES is the headline feature of Star Citizen Alpha 318, and while we didn't manage to release to live before the end of 2022, it is currently in Wave 1 of PTU, Public Test Universe, the testbed, wherein we harden patches with the community's help before we deem the patch stable enough for live release. And there are already lots of community videos and posts about the emergent gameplay that is enabled by PES, especially when combined with some other 318 features such as salvage and soft death, where the ship doesn't blow up into pieces but instead becomes disabled, allowing players to survive a once fatal event and attackers to board and potentially loot the disabled ship. PES.
I want them to turn. Sorry, Scrat.
PES is an example of how all your support has enabled Star Citizen to expand its boundaries and possibilities.
I want them to turn soft death up to 100. I think it'd be a much more fun experience if even the 30% was no, you have to do something. Like give the hard death to the single seats, because that's probably dogfighting, and you don't want to have to blow up the ship and then blow up the person with the ship guns. So sure, single seat fighters, they can stay hard death, but anything that has an interior, 100% soft death. I would love that.
Yeah.
One, it would mean that I get to have my final stand, and I know I can have my let's say pirates like.
I think it was a Zero State video where they disabled a hammerhead. I think it was in atmosphere of a moon, so the gravity was light, and then it just slowly crashed to the ground and stayed intact, but had all the damage states and everything, and they were able to board it and stuff. Like, I think the chance, I think 30% is a high chance, is a too high of a chance that a ship can go boom still. I think it should be a lot lower. But I guess you could maybe make it scale based off the size. Like an 890 should have a very low probability of having, catastrophic boom. But a Cutlass, would be considerably higher. But I still think 30% is, but eventually that it's like, this is just temporary. It'll also, it'll be much more dynamic in the future, what weapon, where you hit it, blah, blah, blah. Back to you
True says something that isn't being talked about enough is how much 318 has fixed elevators, rotating gears in 318. I forgot though, I have not been to ArcCorp since they stopped moving, I think. And I'm so glad they're moving again. So yes, I haven't noticed any fixing of elevators. Anyway, but the community's contributions goes much further than funding Star Citizen's development, as contributing ideas, giving feedback, and testing the various updates release are all part of the symbiotic relationship between Cloud Imperium Games and the Star Citizen community. There are plenty of features and content that I and the development team dream up, but there are equally many things that come from you, the community. The development of Star Citizen is a fusion of the development team and the community playing it. Ideas are passed back and forth, made better, released, tested, and iterated on. Some of the recent racetracks that debuted in 372 and now 318 are a result of the community finding interesting areas to race around, which in turn inspired developers to flesh them out and start to add time trial functionality to the ship HUDs. This is just one example. There are too many others to list in detail, as the same dynamic happens with everything in Star Citizen. Your actions in the universe inspire the Star Citizen team to improve and push the boundaries even further. I assume I'm supposed to get the little one as well.
Yep.
And what is more exciting is that this community grows larger every year. I can't read. More and more people discover Star Citizen through their friends, online videos, and people streaming their gameplay. People are intrigued and jump into the verse. I can't finish sentences properly.
In my letter from the chairman in May of this year, I mentioned just how strongly we started 2022 in terms of new players joining the verse. Yeah, those numbers were really impressive. This trend has continued through the rest of the year, fueled by Invictus launch week, and then continued with the release of Alpha 317.2, which really should have been numbered as a full patch due to the number of features, content, and optimizations we put in it, knowing that Alpha 318 was going to take extra time due to the complexity of PES. The biggest headline of 317.2 was the increase in server capacity from 50 players to over 100 players, which was enabled by the ongoing multi-threading and optimization work the engine and gameplay teams have been working on in the background. Um, Somebody said today, like, the going to 100 players wasn't a big deal because it was an accident. Like, they didn't mean to.
What?
They weren't trying to do
What do
it.
you mean it was an accident? They,
I
they
I was
literally
like, are
tested
you?
for like several weeks.
I was like, an accident? You're kidding. How would it be an accident? And he's like, they didn't do anything. I was like, they've been. He literally just talked about it. What they were doing, the optimization and multi-threading that allowed for it to be efficient enough that they could do that. Like, before 317, that wasn't possible. It wasn't more efficient for them to run it that way. And
How
with
do
the
you even,
optimization
like...
they did, yeah, it was just, I was absolutely blown away because I was like, again,
I
tell me you
love
don't
the
read.
just logical fallacies people just jump into and
Oh,
cuddle
yeah.
inside to
Yep.
make these wild accusations about this game.
Yeah. We don't know what we
Boy.
did, but suddenly we're able to, have higher player counts. No, they know exactly what they did.
Whoops! I
You know.
hit 100 instead of 50. I guess we
Yeah.
have 100 player servers.
They didn't realize that the work that they were doing might work out that way, but they still were doing the work in order to optimize it, in order to increase player counts. And they just didn't realize that they were going to be able to do it so soon because the things equaled out. It was more efficient to have 100 players on one server than two servers, with 50 players. The performance is equal. So it's like, okay, sweet. Well, let's just make it happen now instead of waiting.
That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah, I was just like, what?
It's like, I don't know if I can talk to you anymore.
Yeah. And I responded with the link to this and the quote, and the response was whatever. So, yeah. This enabled a more active and busier PU for players and allowed for some truly spectacular player-driven events like 100 plus person fleet battles or ship meets. And so something that I wanted to put into context, because people have been saying that, okay, like, I got into it with Burks about this. He's like, there's no reason we can't have, these larger ships. We've got 100 player counts, 100 player server counts. Like, just because you can have 100 players on a server doesn't mean that the server will support 100 players running around in their large, ships and stuff, soloing this and that. And the other thing is the graphics engine can't support that many ships running around because we don't have ship interior culling. So again, Burks, I'm sorry, but you're doing what Morph does, and you don't follow the development that close because you spend a lot of time playing the game. You know how to play the game, but you don't understand all these other things because these were hidden in dev posts when people ask questions and they get them answered. And this is the information that Nazeris and I go hunting for.
Also, another point on top of that, try and get, let's just take a javelin. Let's take, or even an Idris. Heck, a Polaris. Well, Polaris is actually supposed to be efficient. Idris. We'll go Idris then. Try and get an Idris amount of people, a full Idris amount of people on a ship without the engineering gameplay, without the maintenance gameplay, without everything that's not turreting, and spend an hour in game. I bet you somebody's gonna get shot of boredom.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna get bored. Somebody's gonna shoot one of your crewmates.
If you
There's
remember,
nothing to do.
I think it was back during Invictus launch week, they showed that clip of a bunch of Idrises and NPC Idrises and NPC Javelins just absolutely duking it out, having a giant battle royale. And Jared just basically, got almost like teary-eyed with happiness at seeing it. And people were like, see, how come we can't have that in game?
Because it has no interior.
Because it has no interior. They specially built those ships and took out the interior because otherwise it would crash the game if the interior was there. That's why, like, the game runs so slow if you're anywhere near the Javelin tour, because it has an interior. and even without an interior, the Bengal, because it's so huge, even on the low res version that they put in the game, it's not meant to look like that. It's supposed to be meant to be higher detail, but they had to downscale it in order to get it in the game, so that way it wouldn't crash the engine, because Gen 12 and the Vulkan API weren't in. So yeah, this is why we need dynamic server meshing, and this is why we need the engine optimizations, Gen 12, Vulkan, all that stuff, because
We're close.
yeah,
But not there yet.
those are the things that allow for server meshing allows for Ray's guide has the best way of describing it, and I will share his videos until he dies. But Ray's
we'll share
guide
him after that too.
yeah, it 07 to not dead Ray, but he puts it in the best way possible, that server meshing allows for absolute dispersion of players, because you can have more servers to cover all those areas, because they're not getting streamed out because a player is there. And Gen 12 and the Vulkan API allow for absolute concentration, because then you can have a ton of players being rendered with all their ships and whatever else, and not just absolutely bog down the frame rates. And those are the two things that are the major effectors of the player count in the game. And we just got the first version of Gen 12, and they're already working on the Vulkan API and optimizing Gen 12, and they're working on server meshing. So there you go. But you can't put the cart before the horse. And that's the issue, is you have all these people putting the cart before the horse because they don't read. And these things have been explained to us time and again. But
horses are really bad at pushing heavy things.
Yeah. Horses and Star Citizen, space horses. Where's my unicorn from the Corel system, CIG? Yeah.
There's gotta be a one sentence we should put in a unicorn somewhere in somebody's computer in some office. There's gotta be.
I will finish this one, and you can take the next grouping.
All right.
In November, we released Alpha 3.17.4 just in time for the 2952 edition of IAE, which debuted 2 new flyable ships in the Drake Cutter and Corsair, as well as the RSI Galaxy, a large modular multi-role ship that has been added to the ship production pipeline. Probably shouldn't have said it like that because it's not in production, but 6 1/2 dozen.
Isn't it though?
Nope, just concept.
Well, yeah, but it might be on the docket to be put into full production in this year.
Yeah,
so
it could be, but
call
it's
it
not
in production.
Currently in production. So
it's
if I was to write things,
it's flagged
I would
as
not
to be scheduled this year.
Yeah, I would not give anybody any ammo, but that's just me. If I was the community team member who reviews this before sending it out to the community, because I get how how certain aspects of the community react to certain things, this is something I would be like, let's reword this.
I mean, if it's flagged for getting Gray Box done this year, then I would have no problem with that sentence.
But we don't know that. If they said that, that the Galaxy was going to be,
right. If it's not, that's what that sentence says. If it's not that, then bad on him. But
yeah, could be.
I assume it is.
Yeah,
because of that sentence. So somebody was asking me on the pre-show, show me where the Galaxy is in production. That one.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I hope so. I hope that the Polaris going into production means that we will see the Galaxy going into production, 6 months after that. Where, okay, these artists are getting done with this aspect of the Polaris, and now they can move on to this aspect of the Galaxy, while these other,
or they do what Ray talked about.
Yeah,
they have a white box team, a gray box team, and a final art team.
Yeah.
So the gray box team does the Polaris, moves on to the Galaxy, and the final art team comes in and finishes off the Polaris, then moves on to the Galaxy when that comes out of.
That's basically how it works. It's just not labeled that way.
Some
Some
of the artists traditionally would bring it from gray box to final.
That's how they talked about this with the Banu Merchantman. How people were like, "There's 19 people working on it." What's going? It back when it was like showed off in May or June. during Alien Week, and it says, the video said there's only 2 artists working on it right now, and they're like, people got all up in arms because the progress tracker said 19 people working on it, and that's when there was a post about it, and I'm not going to go find it, but there was a post, about it, and that said what Nazeris and I have been saying for a very long time, that said, 19 people are the people that are scheduled to work on it for, at any point during that sprint. It doesn't mean that all 19 people are working on it from beginning to end. And the fact that that had to be explained to people blew my mind. But it's the same thing. The artists that were doing the exterior gray box on the exterior gray box on the Banu Merchantman, once they're done with the exterior gray box on the Banu Merchantman, they go on and work on something else on another ship. Usually gray box work, but it's they just don't call it, and they aren't listed as that. But that's the way that's what John Crew's entire job is in order to know what talents he has available from different people in order to schedule them to do gray box, to do final art, Lot Zero, the all that sort of stuff,
and to not make the endeavor.
And to not make the endeavor forever and ever and ever, amen. But yeah. So yeah.
Like after they build the galaxy, he loses ground on that argument though. Because like his half of his statement for not doing the endeavor was, we don't know how modularity is going to work. When the galaxy is done, that half the statement just is gone. After that, they have it's a ship based on nothing almost. It's a framework, and frameworks are hard. So he can die on that hill. I understand that one.
Yep.
But he loses some ground for the modularity.
We also added and this was news to me. I hadn't heard this, and if it was announced somewhere else, I don't know how I missed it. But we also added servers in Hong Kong for our exploding player base in Asia Pacific. All of this combined with the return of Jumptown and our other dynamic events like Xenothreat and Ninetales Lockdown kept the verse more engaged and active than any year previously. So they added servers in Hong Kong. I don't know if they're active and working now. Are they going to make it so that way when you log on, you can choose between US, EU, Oz, and
Asia?
HK or whatever they end up calling it? Asia? I mean, because
it'd be US.
It's not on there now.
Australia.
So I'm guessing it's not spun up yet, but they are working on it. I'm guessing that's how it's going to
be. They announced it when the Star Citizen in Shanghai and China were going on.
Oh, really? I must completely missed it. I remember that article when Aaron Roberts went to Korea and was talking with that one province, which to me, that signals that they're looking at building another studio, not just adding servers there.
Imagine an Asian studio with Star Citizen.
Yeah. Well, so
good.
It was a government organization for that sort of province area, and their whole job for that government organization is to bring tech companies in to give jobs to their people in the tech and software development sector. And so basically, it's like, okay, that was to me fact finding and working on what sort of deal can we work out in order to put together, build another studio here, because if you think about it, they are having trouble hiring people. They have all those open jobs, and it's not because CIG doesn't pay well or anything like that. CIG is a great employer. It's because there are only so many people that do this kind of work, and just like every other sector, the game development sector took a huge employment hit over the last couple of years of people like, you know what, I'm done working. I'm going to go do something else.
As we learned during the Texas snowstorm, CIG actually has some pretty nice benefits.
Yeah.
They'll even tell you, we'll put your work in, you stay home and be safe. Like there were some project leads that said, no, you're getting paid to stay at home and be safe. Like, they said, do not work, just be safe. And they said, we'll still pay you for it. Amazing company. Like, I've heard no, what are they called? Verifiable bad things about CIG as far as employee benefits and work conditions go.
Yeah.
So I want to know about the agent. I want to know. I'm gonna be looking this up now.
Yeah, I did a bunch of reading on that organization. I was like, when that came out, because I was like, oh, that's interesting, because like, let's see, Northern Trooper said are willing to move to work. You can only hire so many people in, Austin and Montreal and Manchester, Frankfurt, blah blah blah. You're always going to have more, competition in those areas, and basically, you have to tap labor markets in order to, get the resources that you need. Because CIG has the money, they are trying to spend the money, they're trying to hire more people, and if they can't hire them in the areas that they already are, it makes sense to build another studio, especially if a government organization that is trying to bring jobs into their area will cut you a deal, in some way, shape, or form in order to make it, fiscally viable for you to do so. That's part of the reason they built that giant, or they moved into that giant new Manchester office, is because the UK government in whatever province that is gave them a big old sweetheart deal to do it because they wanted the jobs there. So back to you, Nazeris, for another year of another record breaking year of growth. Blah.
All right. Yeah, and just like, if you're Nintendo, PlayStation, like, these are all companies, like, there's a lot of talent in Asian countries. I would like, especially because we have Hong Kong in the game, not in the game, but when we get to Earth, it will be. All right. Another record-breaking year of growth. While our most passionate players test 318, or the people paid and plus more most passionate, anyway, and our developers take a well-deserved break, I wanted to share with you some truly momentous stats from this year that illustrate Star Citizen had its best year yet, in your face, and crossed some historic milestones that demonstrate this game we all love is finally breaking into the larger gaming consciousness with a success that is greater and faster than we anticipated. Yes, they're reaching their like post 1.0 stuff before they wanted to. Like, there's a reason that a lot of the new player stuff is like, no, we need to get this done yesterday. It's because they're getting bigger faster than they thought. They thought, oh, we'll just like develop this in the background and then we'll have like a big thing when we come out and become the 1.0. Yeah, that's not happening. It's taking longer, and their players are like, oh, this is actually a really cool game, even in its current state. So, new player experience needed. This year, over 1 million new players logged into Star Citizen and played our game, and they did so for more than 36 million hours, or 46 million hours. So that's 46 hours per person. And that's great. That's 46 hours is more than most AAA games have in their entire. That's insane. Our daily active users, DAU here, i.e. unique players logged in each day, has grown 50% over last year, and is double what it was at the end of 2019. This year, we've also averaged, or 2022, we're also averaging over 240,000 monthly active users, which is 33% larger than our monthly active users from last year, with highs of over 400,000 during May, with this year's Invictus launch week. This year is going to be insane! Alright, so back to you for the next one. If you're there.
Yep.
Okay. I think the river, the razor over the river is probably one of the most famous images this year.
Mm-hmm.
I know boards used it a lot for thumbnails. I think I've seen it in third-party publications as well. Like stories about it. Like it's just a really famous picture. It's just so good. It's just a really good picture. I need to have a razor permanently in my hanger. I really do.
Yeah, I want to find that river because it doesn't look like the one that I found.
That's the
before.
original.
Is it? It looks pretty.
Yeah, that's the original river. That was okay. That was the pre-release image. That was this is a engineer made this river. Here, look at it. So it might not have looked the exact same when we got to it in game.
Let's see. Those of you who follow our funding tracker doubtless know that we had already eclipsed all last year's revenues by mid-November, and we'll have our first 100 million year ever, and by a fair margin. You can also read a more in-depth report of our 2021 financials here. But as great as 2021 was, which was remarkable for growing beyond the COVID bolstered revenues of 2020, we managed to grow 30% beyond 2021, which is just nuts.
Now, it took me a second to actually read that properly because he was talking about by mid-November they crossed 100 million raised. But then he referenced the 2021 report, financial report. Those are two separate things. The financial report is from a year ago. The 100 million is from last year. We won't get the financials that include the 100 million plus till the end of this year. Because tax reasons. They're not allowed, nor do they have the time, nor the actual numbers to give you till the year's over. Because for a company this size and this complex, it takes a little bit to get your taxes in order. Yeah. So the 2021 thing was for a year ago's financial report.
Let's see. Oh, here we go. Pull that up because I wanted to pull. Where's the chart?
Which one?
Is the one that has the bar chart.
Do you have the CCU game somewhere?
Isn't there? Has them
pretty easily.
The crowdfunding.
It's the same chart.
Why don't you click?
If you just go to the ccugame.app. Pretty easy to find.
In the column to the, I'm looking at a thing, the old thing, and I want to let me click on that. Here, can you drop me the link?
Just did.
In Discord. There we go. That's what I was looking for. I have to sign in.
Do you?
There we go. Nope, there we go. Okay. This was the part that I didn't realize, that we had eclipsed 2021 by so much. That's just nuts.
IAE was, and to use everyone's favorite term, unprecedented.
Well, Invictus launch week, right?
Invictus was earlier.
Yeah, the orange.
Yeah.
The Invictus launch week was, I mean, all the months were bigger, but look, that's just insane. IAE was pretty close to similar, but
32. 20. There was 2 million more. So yeah, you're right. That was actually pretty similar.
Yeah, I mean, it's an increase, but like that's
21 to 13 last year. Was this April had 8 million, where last year it had 3 million. Like every single one was bigger.
Mm-hmm.
By at least $1 million.
Yeah.
Ooh.
All total,
January
that's $27 million more.
Yeah. January was 7 over 4 million.
That's just wild.
Can I have some of those millions?
Yeah. But $27 million more than they made the year before. Like that's, a 30% in. Let's see, what do you say? 30% increase is just craziness. Anyway, Continuing on, where does all that revenue go? Right back into development, as we've hired more than ever before and continue to build out our Squadron 42 and Persistent Universe teams. It's no secret that our two games and our technology are among the most complex and complicated endeavors in the gaming and even tech industry. We're doing things with our engine that are truly groundbreaking, and it takes talent and time to achieve the ambitious goals we've set for ourselves. And so, even as we grow, we invest all that growth back into our teams through hiring and retaining our critical talent. A huge portion of our growing revenue has come exclusively from new players that only joined Star Citizen this year. In fact, this year we witnessed truly explosive growth. Over 800,000 new accounts were created this year to follow or play our project. Our new players this year have almost doubled this. Our new players this year have almost doubled this year compared to last year, with over 500,000 new players joining us during free flies, dynamic events, and throughout 2022. And of those new players this year, over 70% of them stayed around as paying players who purchased starter packs to get access to the Star Citizen Alpha to keep their adventure going in the universe or in the verse.
There is a single or two words in here. No, one word in here that a lot of people got really butthurt over when we saw the new offices.
Over
Okay, and the
that's
last
like a
sentence of the middle
quarter.
one.
That's like 250,000 additional unique players this year over last. A quarter
So
million more.
So in the last sentence of the middle paragraph, it says it takes time. It takes talent and time to achieve the ambitious goals we've set for ourselves. And last sentence. And even so, as we grow, we invest all that growth back into our teams through hiring and retaining our current talent. Now, just like if anyone's played City Sims, attracting good talent and making them stay in that city takes higher and higher amenities as you go on. If you've attracted the attention of, let's say, the best network engineer ever, getting him in to work for a year is great. Asking him to stay, he's going to have some requirements.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the offices are good looking, lavished even. Why Jared was able to ask for a spaceship. Like, retaining is not a cheap endeavor, especially for talent this strong. Tony Zurevich is probably really not a cheap person to pay. He literally designed software for Fortune 500 companies.
Yep.
And he's working on video games. Not cheap. Not cheap at all. Retaining is an expensive thing at this level.
Mm-hmm.
And having them have cushier chairs or a nice window seat is worth it, guys. It's just worth it. And, like, I would imagine, like, if you got to be a person that was as talented as these people are pulling in, you had the same sway. Like, I'd hope you would allow them to have the same thing you would want if you were in the position.
Mm-hmm.
So,
back to you for Bar Citizen World Tour and CitizenCon.
plus, there's actually cool stuff in here. Okay, so Bar Citizen World Tour and CitizenCon. Throughout 2022, members of our team had the opportunity to attend various Bar Citizen events around the globe. We are grateful for the chance to connect with all of you at these events, especially those who are farther from our offices. The past few years during the pandemic have reminded us of the importance and significance of in-person events, and there is nothing quite like the energy and excitement of a Bar Citizen. Seeing and experiencing your passion and support in person energizes us for the work ahead. We have always been inspired by your creativity and camaraderie at these events, and we believe that they will continue to be a highlight of the community for years to come. For this reason, and many more, I'm happy to share that we plan to continue this initiative in 2023. Our community team is always interested in learning about upcoming events in your area, so be sure to share your events on Spectrum. So, Bar Citizen World Tour is not over yet. There going to continue to send devs to big enough bar citizens. I forget what the threshold is, but I only just heard about it like this month. Apparently, it's like somebody said 20 or something. I don't know what it is, but if the bar citizen is big enough, they will send a dev just to go hang out. I think
I'm
it's
hoping
amazing.
that Bar Citizen Salt Lake City can get big enough that they'll send people, and I'll drive down there for that. That's like a 4.5 hour drive for me.
The closest one to me has Montoya in it, so I don't like nothing against him or his views or whatever. I'm an introvert. He's a very loud person.
Yeah, the pictures are cool though. That like all this stuff makes me smile.
All the happy faces.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing I want to do if I can get on YouTube, dependent on YouTube. It's go to each CitizenCon around the world and go to the offices. Have my own anti-bar citizen, my CitizenCon tour. Like 4 years in a row, go to all of them and to all the offices. That'd be amazing. Anyway, where are we at? Last paragraph. And in case you missed it, Sandy Roberts also recently announced that in-person CitizenCon will be returning in 2023 in Los Angeles. We are looking forward to seeing all of you there for a day of celebration of the Star Citizen community, Star Citizen universe with fellow community members. We'll share more information as soon as we have it, so stay tuned for more details on this event. So they mentioned, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, that when we got to around end of Q1, they said if we were going to have one, they would already have to be deep in planning. They're already deep in planning for 2023. The CitizenCon. Like, it's... and they're planning on blowing the roof off the last one.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and they're planning farther in advance than they have before.
It's going to be good. I hope to be there.
I will be there. If we... Oh, man, that'd be fun if we actually, got to go to CitizenCon. Yeah. Meet and watch CitizenCon together. And, yep. Yeah, in 28, I got to go to 2018. My wife and I went, and I went to Bar Citizen in Austin the night before with Paul and hung out, and we had a great time, did shots. I went out and had barbecue and met up with Fast Cart, who has been on Captain's Table many times, along with a few other people from his community. It was a really good time.
I just need to find my designated extrovert. Because if you're an introvert, you don't go anywhere without your designated extrovert.
Oh, I'm very extroverted. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I don't have a shy bone in my body.
It needs to be someone that I know already. Like
okay.
It's just an introvert thing. You need to find someone who. So basically, what happens for introverts, and this was the best way it's been explained to me, is introverts look for an extrovert to adopt them, and that's how they make friends. So I need to find one of my adoptee extroverts. I have 2 of them that I know of, and I just need to convince one of them to go to Los Angeles with me. One of them's in state, one of them is in Colorado, so if he says okay, I'll have to fly out to Colorado, then fly. Either way, we have to meet up, and he's in Colorado, and I'll be here. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Super interesting. Either way, I hope to make it, and I'm looking forward to it. Like, the plans are so far to make it.
Yeah. Paul said he's gonna go. I'm gonna go. I
think everyone's planning on going. Like, no one's gonna miss out on the first in 3 years for content reasons.
Yeah, there would have to be some sort of disaster, like World War III or something.
I wonder if Ford's gonna be there.
There's a lot of people I'd really like to meet.
Yeah, I just want to give him a hug. Like, dude, you've done so much for the community.
I want to take a shiny head selfie with Board Gamer.
That'd be perfect.
The 2 shiniest heads in Star Citizen content creation. Yeah. Instead of space tomato, we're space potato.
Space potatoes. This batch of potatoes.
Especially because I'm from Boise. Yeah. Oh man, I could change my name. If I ever get on the Launch Sequence podcast, I'm gonna call myself that.
Okay.
Anyway, new places to call home. In my last letter, we shared some early imagery of our new Manchester and Frankfurt offices that were previously under construction. I'm happy to report we have now moved into both offices, Frankfurt at the end of August and Manchester in mid-October. Having our staff together in the office makes a huge difference to our teamwork. We've struggled at times to hit our goals for 2022, and while we will always achieve incredible things at Cloud Imperium Games, I've personally seen a significant change in pace towards the end of the year, resulting from most of us being in the office. While we were finally able to achieve which we were finally able to achieve once our two new offices in Frankfurt and Manchester were ready to be occupied. That's another reason I'm hopeful for 4.0 is everybody's back in the office now, finally. The huge new offices in downtown Manchester were especially important as we had grown way beyond the capacity of the old Wimslow office during the pandemic, and so could not properly return to office until we had the extra space. Now that our teams have moved back in, we're especially eager to give you all a tour of our new facilities. We plan to do just that in the coming months as we wrap up final touches on the facilities. You can expect a video tour alongside the return of periodic studio tours for those looking to visit us in person, of course with limited capacity when available. Just need a space egg and we can have an omelet. We're also planning on opening our doors for a couple of fun in-house events for our concierge and subscribers. Stay tuned for more information on that in the new year. All right, now I have to convince my wife to go on vacation to the UK.
That's not hard. I mean,
yeah,
it's the UK. Like, we're American. Like, UK is full of like fun.
Mm-hmm.
Why
don't you take the
funniest part?
first two paragraphs of the next part?
Oh, go ahead. Is that they had grown bigger than their offices during the pandemic. And they weren't able to go back to the office till they bought more space.
Yeah, Jake was saying that like he only goes to work, he goes to the office like 2 or 3 days a week because he has to like office share with people.
Oh my gosh!
And it's a huge schedule. Yeah, and Jake is in Austin, but it's a huge scheduling hassle and he wasn't. I mean, like that's the entire company was like that, and it's a huge scheduling hassle. Like they have to put in extra work just to be able to schedule when it's their turn to use the office space. So
so does that mean that Austin is slated for new offices as well?
I was actually going to ask that because I know Austin and Santa Monica, like they've outgrown their space too. So
dang,
yeah.
I wonder if LA is going
after making
20 better area.
Yeah, and after a $27 million, $27 million of additional funding over last year.
They got some playroom.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm doing how much here?
Why don't you do the first two paragraphs and I'll do the second two of the Star Citizen Alpha 318.
Okay, cool. Star Citizen Alpha 3.18. Last week, we opened the gates and welcomed Wave 1 testers to check out our latest content and technologies in Star Citizen Alpha 3.18. This upcoming patch release marks a giant technical leap forward on Star Citizen's journey to deliver an uncompromising and near-limitless universe that we've all been dreaming of. Far from our typical quarterly patch, this release introduces fundamental changes to our entire backend, bringing all new sets of backend services, granting universal persistence, and even the mass migration of the entire game state into the cloud, which is a tremendous undertaking and accomplishment for our teams. Go teams! Since hitting Wave 1, tens of thousands of you have delved in to experience the long-awaited salvage profession, and an entirely new economic and non-combat career path for the pilots of the verse. The ability to salvage will allow pilots to retrieve valuable materials from target ships and sell them for profit. The new salvage profession is supported through the addition of new technologies and tools included a complete cargo refactor, giving cargo a physical representation in-game. Alpha 318 also included the launch of the Drake Interplanetary Vulture, a new entry-level flyable salvage ship in the Drake lineup of vessels. Perfect for the pilots beginning their career in salvage, alongside updated functionality to the Reclaimer. Pilots can now finally utilize the behemoth of a ship. It's technically non-combat, but I've seen more people blow up a ship than salvage it than not. I wonder if you can salvage the investigative ships. We have to go and like find the crew that blew up.
That's
When-
something that's interesting to me. Like, did they rework the those missions so that they spawn with derelicts appropriate for salvaging? Yeah.
Mm,
I haven't had a chance to
Do
look
the
into it and
assets
try.
just reference, or are they new assets?
I always
Like when they
I
update the
assumed
ship,
that
does it update the asset?
I always assumed that it did, but
Mm,
that's beyond me. Something I'm gonna have to test out.
yeah, I've not played too much of 318 just
Oh,
because
I've barely been
for the
able to
first
touch it.
for the first couple weeks, you couldn't change your armor. So
Yeah.
after you put something on, you couldn't change it, which was not playable. But it's fixed now mostly. You just gotta wait a minute because the back end takes a minute to respond.
Yeah. Um. Oh, yeah. So while salvage, new racetracks, new points of interest, and some of the other visually stimulating mechanics will take the spotlight, the largest change to our universe comes from powerful work under the hood with persistent entity streaming. With this new tech, all physical objects moved or placed by players will be dynamically tracked on the server they were moved on and remain in their new locations. PES represents the largest technical update in the game's history and is a critical addition in laying the foundation for future technology and full in game persistence that will unlock a new level of immersion in the verse. As we move towards making 318 stable enough to release to the live service, I'd like to give a special shout out to everyone who has been testing 318 so far on the public test servers, especially those from our dedicated Evocati group who put many hard hours in when the patch was in its roughest and most frustrating state. Thanks to your efforts, we have been able to iterate in real time and implement improvements and fixes quicker than ever. Another reason I'm hopeful for 4.0 in Q4. And let's see. I'll continue with these first bits here.
Okay.
This coming looking forward, the road to Alpha 4.0. This coming year is going to be a huge one for Star Citizen, possibly its biggest one to date. The first order of business is to continue to stabilize Alpha 318 so we can release to the live servers in January, once the team is back from their well-earned holiday break. Then we will continue to harden PES, improving aspects and adding some additional quality of life features, including the ability to choose which PES shard you would like to join. The current game server PES shard matchmaking tries to match you to the last PES shard you were in when you log back in, or to recover from a crash. But if that shard is full, it places you in a different one. In the short term, before server meshing makes this not so necessary, we also want to give players the choice to wait in a queue for their preferred shard if it is full. The next step will be to separate the replication layer, the in-memory cache that remembers all dynamic objects from a dynamic object state from the game server, and have scalable replication layer workers that communicate the state changes between the various game clients, servers, and replication layer. So I know some people are like, wait a minute, I thought the replication layer being off of the game server and being a backend service was part of PES. It is part of PES. The reason it's still on the game server is because each server is a shard. Each server, is its own shard, and until you won't have multiple. You don't need to have the replication layer off the server if the server doesn't have to communicate stuff via the replication layer to anyone but the people on the server, if that makes sense. So the reason that the replication layer has to be off the server for server meshing is because the replication layer will scale just like the servers that are simulating the game, in order to say, okay, we have this many people logged in, there's this many entities and stuff like that. We need more. We need to expand the replication layer in order to transmit the entity state information back and forth between the player clients, the servers, and the entity graph. And so it'll, the entity state information will go from client to replication layer to server. And it'll go from server to replication layer to client. And when those things are streamed off the server,
Did you hit your mute button? I can't hear you at all.
I accidentally bumped the mute button on my mic.
Aha! Okay.
I was doing a Chris Roberts, and I touched the mic.
Yeah, no, I do it all the time, except I don't have a mute button on mine very unpurposely.
Yeah. But yeah, the reason the replication layer is still on the server is because it isn't necessary to move it off the server yet. But the replication layer, the tech to make that work is done. They got it done. They just left it on the server in order to, because it's just more efficient when we still have single servers like this.
And also, like, if it's already a giant leap forward now, why do more work when you can't utilize that work? Have them efficient with their time.
Yep.
And now that we need it for, let's say, 319, 320, whatever it ends up being, now they can go back and do it after they've finalized the live version of 318. So imagine like 318 having to be Q2, but we have the remote replication later. Or just get it to live, then work on the remote replication later. It's just better scheduling. All right, so it was my turn.
Yeah. This is very important for server meshing part.
Okay. This is very important for server meshing, as universe states need to be fully decoupled from server states. No.
Yep.
Hold on, no. Roach. Okay. Sorry, there's a bug on my desk. As the universe state needs to be fully decoupled from the server state, it will also make Star Citizen much more crash resilient. On the client side, as server crash will no longer take down the replication layer meaning that clients can stay connected while the new server or a new server takes over where the last one left off. This completely removes 30k on the server side. Gone. Just gone. 30Ks can also happen client side though, but this removes the 30k on the server end. It will also have the added benefit of having the view every client has on the universe around it be a little more fluid, with less lag, as the client's update and refresh of object state will no longer be tied to the tick rate of the game server. This means players will see state changes from other remote clients and game servers as they happen at rates that are at the various clients and servers push them. Technical talk is not my strong suit. Once this happens, we'll be able to have multiple game servers communicate with the replication layer, much like multiple game clients communicate right now with the replication layer, allowing Star Citizen to have multiple servers simulating the universe state, which we call server meshing. I like how he just broke it down that far. Just like, yeah. Oh, it's right there.
Yeah, like if you haven't been using the unofficial roadmap to server meshing, you know, or really paid attention to the server meshing update videos, you didn't really understand it. But he basically just summarized it in a paragraph. Yeah.
Yeah. Like just to call like, hey, we just need to make this remote. The text's already done, so we just gotta like put it in the thing to make it remote, and then we're there. Like, so why is 4.0 taking so long? Like, yeah, it's gonna be a year. It's gonna be like the fact that it is so close and they're giving so much time to it. I imagine by Q2 we'll have what we should have a Q2 server meshing PTU Evocati.
Oh gosh, I don't think it'll be that soon, but I think it'll be in the dev branch. Remember when they announced like in what was it, August, that PES is working and it's in the dev branch and the devs are using it. And then
I'm just watching 318 and just like it was a Q2, early Q3 Evocati, so
Mm-hmm.
do I keep you going, or do you want to switch out?
You finished the
One ending in which we call server meshing. Nathaniel.
Yeah, I'll do the next two, and then you can do the last sort of three pieces.
Right.
Let's see. Yeah, so we will start with static server meshing, where different servers are assigned to simulate different entity zones in a star system. Entity zones, sometimes referred to as local grids, are separate simulation areas. The inside of a spaceship is a different is a different zone to the space around which the spaceship flies. A planet is a different zone than the star system zone, where all the planets and moons exist in. And a landing zone can also be a different zone, nested inside the planet zone, nested inside the star system zone. At first, the servers will be bound to fixed zones, but we will quickly move to dynamic server meshing v1, where we assign servers dynamically to entity zones based on gameplay and simulation load. This will be a much more efficient use of servers in the load, as you only need servers where the players are, whereas with static server meshing, you have servers assigned to zones, even if there are no players there. My question is, have they changed what their plan was from the they had that chart in the last letter from the chairman where they said 2 servers for Pyros, 2 servers for Stanton. With what they're saying with this, I wonder if
was 4 servers for Stanton and Pyro.
Yeah, 4 servers for Stanton and Pyro. I wonder if they are changing that. I wonder if there's a different idea. This is a really good job of this is a really good job of spelling out how dynamic server meshing will progress, in that as a zone depopulates, they can basically have the parent zone server absorb that zone and turn off that server, but the zones themselves are still static. It's just and then they'll
authority.
Yeah, and then instead of having specific zones, the zones themselves will be dynamic in the future for V2. But yeah, sorry, I'm talking about your part.
It's fine. But the quickly move to dynamic, I wouldn't be shocked if they said Q2 24.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely going to be within 2 quarters of static server meshing release for dynamic server meshing v1, because you were talking about it before and we've talked about it many times. Their platform costs with static server meshing are going to go up substantially.
Like if we just go back up,
especially if they do more than just 2 servers per star system.
Let's see. Where is platform cost? Other dev costs overhead
for the financials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last year they had platform in here.
Yeah, it's always in there.
Headcounts overall. Investment. Where are they? It's in the first one. Salary, renting costs, including community and marketing events, other dev costs, contracted dev costs, publishing operations.
It's in publishing and marketing. Yeah.
They spent $35 million. $35 million. 25 million. 25 million. Sorry. Yeah. $25,448,000 on publishing operations, community events, and marketing. In a year we didn't have an in-person
in 2021. So
yeah.
And that number goes up based off how many people are playing, blah, blah, blah. And we had significant player growth. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if
I don't want that
well
bill.
over
I don't want
$30 million for the publishing and marketing budget. And I don't know what portion of that goes to publishing, but I'm sure it's a lot, because you can see over the years how much publishing costs them.
I'm not one that wants that bill.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be like 50 million by the time
Oh yeah.
23 financials are out there.
Well, and
Alrighty.
that's why they took that minority investment, is that was earmarked for platform, which is publishing, costs and marketing.
Mm-hmm.
They just haven't used hardly any of it. But yeah, moving on, continuing.
Yes, dynamic server meshing v2, or as I'm going to be calling it, dynamic v2. So it's dynamic v1, dynamic v2, and static. Anyway, dynamic server meshing v2 will take this dynamic assignment of servers one step further by subdividing entity zones into simulation islands. This is an organization of dynamic objects into one zone, local grid into a different group, based on which objects can be interacted with or collide with each other, allowing these islands to be distributed between servers to again help balance simulation load. At this point, we should be able to handle tens of thousands of players in the same persistent entity streaming server universe shard, bringing Star Citizen much closer to the ultimate goal of having huge living universes densely populated with players and AI. Tens of thousands! Eye-watering numbers. Holy crap. Once we achieve static server meshing, we can open the universe of Star Citizen to other star systems, starting with Pyro, quickly followed by Nyx, and then, what's the other one that's almost done? Isn't there another one that's almost done? I mean, Lear's there, Odin's done. Anyway, lots of star systems. By having authority pass from one server to another, you'll be able to transition seamlessly without the need of having to log out of the game between star systems. That's a stab at traditional MMOs. I just want to say that right now. That's a stab. Like, he didn't bring up the load screens this time, which has been like their 10-year joke of no load screens. And like, dang, just tens of thousands. It's just blown away by it. Like, that's not like a number he just like thought of. That's where they're aiming. How many we've had what? How many people? How many unique people did he say log on? I think it's like 400. Yeah, 400. So monthly active users, unique monthly active users had a peak during Invictus of 400,000. So tens is more than a couple, at least 20,000 people on a single server. So what is that? Let's do math. 400,000 divided by 20,000. Yeah, that's times. That's not what I meant. 400,000 divided by 20,000 is 20. You have 20 meshes for the entire monthly active user base. And that's assuming everyone's playing at the same time. That 400 monthly active users all logged on at the exact same time. So less than 20 different 20 different meshes, which is insane. Like, contrast that with how many they'd have to have now, with 400,000 divided by just 100, which is 4,000, right? Can't do math in my head. Divided by only 100. 4,000. 4,000 servers we have to have now to get the population of the monthly active users. 20 after dynamic v2. Dang. All right. Yes, it is your turn. Okay.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, you
Right into
finished it.
the
So
pyro.
yeah. Um,
Also,
we
you should point out that image. That's a new image of pyro.
Yes, and it's gorgeous.
Like it's like
Speaking of,
to say that they're at a
this
Hollywood
clip,
quality. I have
this
not been able
clip
to
is
find that.
nuts.
It's beautiful. I don't know where it is. I want it. I know I think Board's using it. I don't know where he got it from.
What, this clip that we're watching right here?
Yes.
Or you can just download it from the webpage.
Where? How? I tried.
Right click, inspect,
Uh-huh.
and let's see, it's this one or this one. There we go. There we go. Video loop. And there's the MP4. Open a new tab. Download.
Where do you see video loop?
So you have to open up the things, but make it so it shows down.
There are things. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, that's how I get the actual full images, from their website and the clips and stuff that they put in. And
I go to the source page for the images, but I couldn't find the video in the source.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Space Industries. All right.
I love the fog. The fog is so
The fog.
cool. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, that's a beautiful.
Why can't I fly my spaceship everywhere? Because fog.
Yeah. Let's see. We are aiming to put static server meshing and pyro into the hands of players in the fourth quarter of 2023. The large caveat with this goal is that complicated engineering work that involves a completely new paradigm. It requires a host of new backend services, and technology is hard to estimate and schedule accurately, as the issues and problems that can come up along the way are hard to foresee, as no one has implemented this system before, and plans rarely survive contact with the users, especially at scale. This has been true for PES, as it is no secret that we are hoping to have Alpha 318 and PES released to live by the end of the year, as opposed to just PTU. Delays in finalizing 318 and PES impact the team's ability to start on the next stage, and we still have the unknowns of how PES performs after months of heavy load, and people seeing exactly how much space junk they can leave around. I'll just finish this one out. Beyond this, there are a host of other exciting features and content we have planned for 2023. Pyro, with its assorted planets, moons, settlements, space stations, and assorted factions and AI population being the headline. But we also will be rolling out the new item resource system in ships, which replaces the old pipe system with a much more dynamic and scalable system to allow for truly emergent behavior. In fact, elements of this new system can already be seen in 318 in the salvage gameplay. Bounty hunting with a full tracking system and the ability to actively restrain and transport both players and AI. Thank God. They're moving along on those systems, those backend services, the AI services. Hooray. Persistent hangars with freight elevators, allowing you to call up your stored inventory or place things into storage. Towards the end of the year, we should see some of the more Squadron 42 related work arrive in Star Citizen. More flexible player traversal, especially on ladders and ledges, a greatly improved interaction system, FPS scanning, the new star map, MFDs using the more performant and flexible building blocks UI system, and much deeper combat AI. Now that the Gen 12 render is functioning in 318, the graphics team will work on multi-threading improvements and optimizations for the renderer, as well as hook up the Vulkan graphics API to it to unlock some of the performance gains that the Gen 12 renderer can provide. There are numerous other things the Star Citizen team are working on for this year, but this letter is already long enough.
I could stand a little bit longer.
Yeah. Give me more. I'll take it. I'll let you take the first half of the final thoughts.
All right. And that we had the roadmap for the graphics team. After the improvements and optimization, the next thing on the docket is things like ray tracing and VR. So keep that in mind as we go through this next year. Like they don't know what tech they'll be looking into. They just know that now, after Vulkan is done, they can move on to implementing newer and better things. Final thoughts. Looking back on 2022, it has been gratifying to see Cloud Imperium and Star Citizen community grow. We ended the year with 861 employees, and the community grew more than 4 million accounts and 1.8 million backers, accounts that have purchased Star Citizen. We've achieved a lot this year, including our move to 2 wonderful new homes for most of our staff. We fell short on a few others, like having 318 and PES full live before the end of the year, but this is the nature of game development, that tries to boldly go where no game has gone before. You want me to do the last one up here?
Yeah, go for it. I'll
Okay.
take the bottom half.
Okay. What has especially been great is just how much more time people are spending playing Star Citizen this year. This has a lot to do with increased player counts and improved stability, but also Star Citizen, even in its alpha state, is already feature and content rich with a huge number of things to do. With your friends or solo, this list grows larger with every patch. Answers.
There we go. The universe and how you interact with it is up to you. From exploring to hauling, trading, mining, salvage, refueling, refining, bounty hunting, piracy, to being a hired gun, to just sightseeing and being a social butterfly. And that is just what we have now. In the future, you will be able to farm or gather other resources, build, craft, and sell. The universe of Star Citizen is a huge sandbox for everyone to play in, and I couldn't be more excited by what the future holds. Star Citizen is more than just a game. It is an escape to another reality where anyone can pursue their imagination, not bound to a single playstyle or profession, where they can interact with other players that share in the same common dream. I feel incredibly lucky and privileged to have the opportunity to pursue this dream with the amazingly talented team at Cloud Imperium and the support and patience of the best community in gaming, the Star Citizen community. From all of us at Cloud Imperium, we wish you all a happy new year and can't wait to continue the journey with you in 2023. Star Citizen is more than just a game, it is an escape to another reality. A lot of people
I
need
don't
to
know if
read
it's the
that.
marketing team or if it's Chris Roberts really hates the word metaverse.
Yeah.
Like every other company's like, oh, we're building on metaverse because it's like fully realized and stuff. They have said that kind of sentence so many times, like a fully realized environment, to be a person in a world, to escape to another reality. Like they've said something like that so many times, and they always define metaverse without saying metaverse.
Yep.
It's great. I love it. Good job. Chris Roberts, founder and CEO of Cloud Imperium Game. If we don't hear from you soon, we'll see you at CitizenCon. And ta-da, we did it! A full Web3. Get
Hooray.
out. Get out! Get out of here.
God damn it, Blizzred. That statement alone is a war crime. You are a war criminal.
I don't want my cookies tracked in NFTs.
We're not going to go over it. This is already a 3-hour long podcast. But I know that this is a lot of gobbledygook, but I highly recommend you, if you have the time, just go through the financial reports. Even if you just read it and you ignore some of the verbiage that doesn't make sense. I'm not an economist or an accountant or anything like that, but there are tidbits of information in here that are of value, and it is important to recognize, where funding has gone. This is basically an exponential curve that we're riding right now, especially because this is 2021 and 2022 is essentially up here. It's just nuts. But one thing I wanted to point out, because I had this discussion with someone on Facebook, because they were like, oh, I'm so glad that CIG finally is turning a profit, and things are turning around for CIG. Like, woe is them. And I'm like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, they, for 5 years, they didn't turn a profit. I'm like, yeah, they were trying to spend that money. They were trying to grow the company. They weren't concerned with turning a profit. And he's like, yeah,
And turning a
companies aren't.
profit can be actually bad for bigger companies.
Yeah, turning a profit is bad for big companies, especially when you're trying to invest in, in growth and development in capital expenditures, because that's money that just essentially gets wasted because it gets taxed
Mm-hmm.
at a higher rate. They try to go in the black, especially because if you're going in the black relative to what you earned that year, but you have a surplus from years prior, that's a good thing. It means you're spending the money you're bringing in as well as some of the money you have saved in order to make more money, which is exactly what
I
CIG is doing.
I missed Trooper's comment about legs.
Oh,
It's not a simulated video. It's actually real.
So
I don't know
one
if you
thing I
know what that's
wanted to
referencing.
bring up really quickly is, so here is CIG's income: net pledges and income less cost, capex, and expenses. So here is, at the end of 2012, here is how much money CIG had, in the bank after all their, all their costs, everything that they had to pay for. Here's what they had in 2013 after everything they had to pay for. And
Oh, that's why it's screwed up.
here's what they had in 2014. So, but here is the additive of what those things are. So by the end of 2014, CIG was sitting on a surplus of $25 million. $25 million. And so they're like, God dang, we can't just sit on this money, And 2014 is when they realized, hey, we can make a much bigger game. This is when the transition happened from that very small, much more limited experience freelancer 2.0 to what we're going on now. The basically 2014 to 2015. And that's when they started ramping up investment and hiring and building offices in order to build that different game. And so they didn't turn a profit in 2015. They spent more money than they made, but they had $25 million left in the bank going into 2015. And even after 2015, they still had $19 million left. And even after 2016, remember, they only barely didn't turn a profit in 2016, and they were growing, and they still had $19 million left. And again, they spent more than they earned in 2017, continuing to grow, and they still had a $14 million surplus. And so they're like, okay, we're continuing to grow, expand our offices, hire more and more people, and even after 2018, they spent $7 million more than they made in 2018 on growth, but they still had almost $7 million sitting in the bank. $7 million. And that's when they, but at this point, what was going on is they realized how, with the amount of people coming into the game and playing the game, let's see, we'll open this in a new tab. Their publishing and marketing costs were going up substantially. They're spending, because they weren't doing hardly any marketing, they were spending a ton of money on publishing the platform, how much money they have to give to Amazon to host and run the game. And so they're spending millions of dollars. And so what they did is when they took that private investment, they like, hey, we don't want to spend money for marketing and platform costs out of our development budget. And so we're going to take that, initially it was 48 million, and then they took an additional 15 million on top of that. 46 million and then 17, sorry. Here and here, in order to have this surplus and then spend this surplus on this line item in the budget. And so they were planning on making it so that way they could continue to invest in all of these people, the development, the developer costs, without having to spend this money out of what they earn every year. basically just say, okay, we've got $63 million to spend on this for however many years it takes us to grow the game and then be cash positive every year. Well, they didn't plan on making a crap ton of money in 2020. And so when that happened, they're like, okay, we need to spend this money because we want to be able to, we want to be closer to spending the surplus. Yeah, they want to be spending that surplus on this. The only problem with that is the that they're wanting to spend the money on that surplus, but the amount of money that they made ruined those plans. If CIG had known that they were going to make this much money in 2020, they would have spent more money on things in 2020. They would have hired more people. They would have opened more positions. Done whatever they needed to do, because instead, 2020, they had they didn't spend enough money, and they had they had a profit essentially, and so they're like, well, crap, okay, we'll put some of that money back into our surplus. We'll also spend some of this. They took some of that money in order to pay for these, for this sort of stuff. That's why this went down, but they put that money back in the bank. And so CIG is making money faster than they can spend it right now. That's the thing, is people are like, why aren't they hiring more people to make the game go faster? They've got 140 open positions. They're trying. They're paying people what they can in order to try and retain them long term. Certain people they don't want to retain. It is what it is. It's not always worth it to retain people if you can try and find somebody better. But the fact that the cumulative net position has even after the investment still continued to go up despite CIG's growth, it means that CIG didn't anticipate this much money coming in. They didn't anticipate this much money coming in. And when 2022 comes out and you see that it's up to here, it's going to be like, holy crap. We are trying to spend this money. We don't know what to, we can't spend it fast enough, and they're trying to grow. That's why it was Nazeris. When did they come out with that statement that they're trying to get to 1,000 people for the studio by 2023 and 1,300 people total by 2026? I forget what article that was in.
Before the last chairman left.
Yeah, it was in. I want to say it was in 2020 when they first said that. It was 2020 when they first said that. Something like, it was 2020, or maybe it was in 2021 when they said that. Because it was in 2020, because to get to 1,000 people in 2023 meant that they would have to hire 300 people in 3 years. And then to get to an additional 300 people in 2026, it would mean they would have to hire an additional 300 people in the following 3 years after that. Well,
also, if you go to the colorful one, bar graph.
This guy?
Not that one. The one with the yellow in it. Yeah, that one. The yellow, the CapEx, I remember that one from last year. Yeah, last year. That's basically taxes. Just imagine that as taxes. Not only sales, but it's mostly taxes or money that had to go to employees, but not salary.
Yeah.
So 2020, the reason that's so big is, one, they had a surplus of money, a lot of surplus of money. Two, pandemic safety. So anything they spent on their employees during the pandemic, that's it.
Yeah.
So that's why that's a bit bigger right there and only there. And when it shrunk back up for 2021.
We are, in the letter, he just said that they're at like 860 people. And they are behind on their hiring despite their best efforts. And they have all those positions open because they had the positions open in order to reach that goal of 1,000 people. And but I forget how many they said that they hired this last year. But I think they said that they had hired 70 during the last chairman's letter. Um, and so I think that they are close to what they or tried to hire in 2022. And so if they can hire about what they hired in 2022 in 2023, they'll be pretty close to the goal of 1,000 person studio. But that's the thing is they are trying. They're trying to spend that money, but now that they have all this extra money from 2022, I wouldn't be surprised if CIG devs started to get a raise. And because they already have, they have good benefits, they have great places to work. But with that extra money from 2022, I think you're also going to see another big capex, like in 2020, where they're paying in advance to negotiate for the development of new studios in Austin and Santa Monica, or a new studio like in Korea, because they have all this money coming in and they need to tap other labor markets beyond the ones that they already have. Especially because labor and overhead costs, like for the Austin office, are stupid expensive because Austin is such an expensive place to live right now. And real estate is so expensive in Austin. Of course, Santa Monica is the same thing and always will be. But they'll always maintain a presence in Santa Monica, but they have to try and expand to other places.
Blizzrad's gonna make me ban him.
Blizzrad, god damn it. But yeah, that was the only things I wanted to mention from the
Trooper. Don't feed it.
Don't feed the monkey. Yeah, don't feed our Australian monkey or whatever. Yeah, our Tasmanian devil, whatever we're gonna call you, Blizzrad.
Yeah.
But those are the things I wanted to mention from the financial report. So yeah,
I want to know what their Asian market Kiwi Storm.
Yeah.
I will be looking into this.
One last thing I forgot to mention, and this just popped up today, like this afternoon or whatever, in my bot thing that trolls Spectrum and Reddit and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So someone made this post following the letter from the chairman. It says, "What does Chris's prediction account for?" In the letter from the chairman, we have a 2023 Q4 prediction for static server meshing. What is this prediction accounting for? Does it assume the work goes forward with minimal hiccups? Does it assume the work goes forward with substantial issues that need to be worked on, e.g. what we've seen with PES? Ergo, I'm guessing it doesn't assume something will happen that will require a total reconcepting of server meshing, like what happened with iCache. I know asking how long a program will take to complete is like asking how long is a piece of string, but I'm trying to manage my expectations here. Like if you said the prediction assumes minimal hiccups, I wouldn't be particularly disheartened if Q4 rolls around and it's not quite there. I would just assume that is the earliest possible date it would show up.
That's a good post. That's a good post. Well done.
Yeah, it is a good post, and it's very fair. And Clive Johnson. So if you don't know who Clive Johnson is, Clive Johnson is the server meshing guy. He is.
If Tony's the god of the simulation, this is the god of servers.
Yeah, this is the god of server meshing and PES and all the network stuff. Like the one who has been the guy for the entirety since that became a thing in our consciousness. So take what Clive Johnson says as gospel. Server meshing is very much a research and development project, and as such, it's not possible to accurately estimate how long it will take. Chris's letter from the chairman carefully qualified the Q4 2023 date for static server meshing as something we are aiming for, but not guaranteed. I recommend viewing it in that light, as a target we are trying to hit, intended to focus intended to focus R&D effort rather than an actual estimate of how much work is involved. My personal opinion is that this target, while ambitious, is not unreasonable and should allow enough room for us to hit some moderate speed bumps along the way. But if we encounter too many unexpected problems, or enough of those problems can't be resolved quickly enough, then it will obviously impact the final delivery date. So,
Nice.
yeah, if Clive Johnson says that it is ambitious but not unreasonable, and that it allows room for moderate speed bumps, that's
Dave Johnson.
a good prediction. It to me, it's a reasonable prediction.
And don't underestimate these devs when they see CitizenCon on the horizon.
Yeah,
They
and
start to work hard willingly.
yeah, and they're back in the office and all that stuff. But the other thing is, this is moderate speed bumps, and this is taking into account for, okay, this is what happened with PES. We are adjusting our expectations, and that's what this is. We have adjusted our expectations, and this is what we're accounting for: moderate speed bumps along the way, blah blah blah. So, I feel even better now about Q4 2024. I think that they're trying to when CR says Q4 2024, he's saying early Q4 2024, as in October. Do I think it could miss release of October in October at CitizenCon? Yes, absolutely. But I think it could release before the end of the year, and instead we will see a PTU by that time, give or take. In that we're adding 2 to 3 months, onto the expectation, and that it's really a end of Q4, more likely for release, if that makes sense. So, because that, if you think about it, if we're looking at a Evo in September, PTU in October of 2024, that's 9 months. That's a long time, especially given that they have already been working on all the services for server meshing. They're not starting at square zero. Okay, now PES is in game. We just have to wrap it up, and then we can start at square zero with server meshing. That is not how it works. The various services for server meshing have been worked on already considerably. They've already been working on them. They were on the progress tracker. You can go back and look at those things. It's the work is well underway. So we shall see. But I'm cautiously optimistic, and it'll be really interesting to see. So now we can wrap up the podcast.
Yay!
Yay! If you're still here hanging out with Nazeris and I, just want to say thank you for hanging out with us. And before Nazeris gives us his final well wishes and final thoughts, I just want to remind everyone, if you're new here, this is your first time watching or watching later on YouTube, this is a charity driven channel. So everything monetization wise that I get from Twitch and YouTube, not monetized on YouTube yet, but we're more than halfway there. It all goes to stackup.org. So if you give me a follow, if you watch the podcast, if you subscribe on here, subscribe on YouTube, all that sort of stuff, it's all super appreciated and all goes to a good cause. And I just want to say thank you in advance.
We're good?
Yep.
All right. As far as my house cleaning bits, a new thing has been started this week, which is a pre-show for the podcast, which is hosted over on my YouTube channel. That starts at 8 p.m. EST. So depending on if we start at 8 or 10, just depends on scheduling that week. There will be an hour or 2 hours of pre-show. It's a much more informal. Let's just talk about random Star Citizen stuff. Nothing is pre-prepared for the pre-show. What is it? Also, we won't have a podcast next week, though we will have a basically all pre-show show next week. So it's just talking about Star Citizen. We might do a little bit of SketchUp work because I am designing or working trying to design an Argo carrier to or Argo cargo freighter to compete with the Upper Hull series. So that'll be fun. And that is all I got. So thank you everyone for showing up. It has been a blast. I'm so glad that we're back doing this. And
Same.
here's to an amazing 2023 because I don't know about Tree's personal life that much, but as far as mine, Star Citizen, and everything, it seems it's a bright first 3 days so far. 2 days, and we're just into the third now. And we got CES, which means there's going to be a whole bunch of tech stuff coming out over the next month. Super good. I can't wait to see all devs back in the office, refreshed and getting on their stuff. CitizenCon at the end of the year, and our journey until that. And I'm trying. I'm gonna say this as many times as I can till my mouth falls off. Anyway, I'm trying to get dependent on YouTube for life-sustaining income as I try and transition to a full-time YouTuber instead of a part-time trash retail employee. So for those of you who want to support that endeavor, I don't know where exactly it's at Nazeris on YouTube. Not sure where I put that. Basically, just at Nazeris on YouTube. It's fine. Nazeris/YouTube or YouTube/Nazeris. There we go. So it's been going so well so far. So again, thank you everyone who has helped support and support this channel as well. Because like Tree said, it's all for charity. For a good cause. But anyway, thank you all for coming. It's been great. I look forward to many, many more. Hopefully, 52 more or 51 more this year. There we go. And as always, be kind. Bye, everyone.
Good night, everybody.